Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We are finally going to get back on the 07. And this will be a full video on the 07. For anybody that is curious, we did take the 07 quad cab out today to go get parts. I'll throw that cold start. Everyone always wants a cold start on the old girl. It is 38 degrees. Coolant says 37. That's it. Now I know some of you guys might not think that that's a cold start, and that's fine. 38 degrees, pretty cold, especially for a truck of that caliber. If I do end up driving it anymore this winter, I don't know, but if you are interested, it is for sale with all the sled pulling stuff or without it. We're not gonna get rid of the mega cab or anything, but we might just be on to something a little different. Not too sure yet, but we'll see. If it sells, awesome. If it doesn't, I'll see if I want to keep going with it or possibly part it out, or maybe put the engine that's in there in this, and I don't know, we'll figure it out. But anyway, what we have going on today is I gotta fix a leaking wheel seal back there, which is pretty easy. All I'm gonna do is take the hub off and then clean everything, obviously, adjust the wheel bearing or replace it if I have to, put a new wheel seal on there, put it all together, and then we are gonna tackle some of the engine stuff. So the only other thing that we have in the back while I'm doing all the gear oil and stuff is I will be putting on my ATS differential cover. Our ATS diff cover out, got a nice fill hole, holds a little bit more. It's the flat back design that Gale Banks loves. So yeah, you know guys, on tow rigs and stuff, I do think that these have a decent purpose. Depending on what brand you get, I feel like they all do the same thing. It's just like with your transmission pans. If you make the fluid capacity larger, it allows the fluid to, there's more fluid there to absorb the heat that's created, especially when towing, and you've increased the surface area of the differential cover, which leads to more cooling. The ATS one doesn't have the ribs in it like the Mag High-Tech. However, it does have all of these ridges in it for the mountains and stuff, as well as the bolt hole. So I kind of feel like realistically, I don't necessarily think you need these. I've always thought the ATS one looked really cool, so I bought that one. Then we will get into, let's see here, so many parts, guys. We have our Dynamite diesel, 45% over injectors here. We'll be putting those in. You guys have already seen the flow sheet if you watched my flow sheet tech video, but these are a 120 horsepower, 45% over set of injectors here. You guys can look. Don't really care if you guys know the shop address, so everyone can just settle down. On top of that, we also have our ARP 625 head studs, as well as our XDP high duty or heavy duty valve springs. And again guys, these I'm 100% positive are going to be rebranded Mantons, which is fine. You know, at the end of the day, we're still buying a Manton product, I suppose. Trevor always takes good care of us. The reason why we didn't go with the crazy fancy ones is because it's still a stock head. So realistically, on a tow rig, just doing valve springs will be a nice upgrade for our higher boost that we're going to see, especially if we dabble around with compounds in the future. And then the last thing we're going to install, which is we got a 3rd gen fuel filter delete. I'm not sure if we'll get to that in the video. And then we also have our upper fan pulley, which I probably will do this as well. I just really like the fleece one, and if you guys remember, this one kind of has a little squeak to it. Well, when I loosen the belt, Turns out that upper fan, or that upper idler pulley, does seem to be making quite a noise there. On top of the injectors, valve springs, push rods, we're also going to be installing a Dynamite Diesel 12 mil pump, which actually I can show you guys. It's right over here. It's actually, wouldn't really call it a used pump. I mean, I used it for UCC, but it is right here. DDP 12 mil pump going in. And we also have some brand new connecting tubes down there that we will be putting in this. So fresh tubes, fresh injectors, fresh CP3 pump. Our Exergy pressure relief valve is not here yet, so we'll just be rocking the stock one for right now. And the only other thing I'm going to do, while a lot of this is apart, is cut some of this firewall material off, especially there on the cowl. Get rid of that. And then we'll also try to go as far as we can with like a razor blade and get rid of that so it doesn't, fight us the whole time. Clean everything up. It was this wheel seal. The wheel bearing was loose like I had showed you guys before. We are going to reuse the bearings. If you are going to reuse them, just make sure that there's no pitting on the bearing itself or on the races here. Again, kind of hard to show you guys. It's pretty dark in here now. But check the races out. And then normally, if this was like a customer's truck, I would probably offer to replace their emergency brake shoes, parking brake shoes, whatever you want to call them. Because it's my truck, I'm going to just reuse them. What I find works best is brake clean and then a like Scotch-Brite pad to kind of like rough up the surface again. And it's already starting to create quite a bit of friction on my finger. So I think we'll be fine here. We had already planned on doing brakes anyway. So we're gonna go ahead and just throw the new rotors and pads on the rear while we're here. But everything seems to be functioning fine. Wheel bearing was just loose. Judging by the thickness of these parking brake shoes, I'm gonna go ahead and say somebody recently did parking brake shoes on this new hardware. Everything looks really fresh, and just didn't get the wheel bearing adjustment quite right. It happens. I'm sure at some point along the way I might have messed this up too, but that's how we're gonna fix it. So rather than show you guys everything, we'll just clean up our bearings, clean up our hub, put the new bearing, or reuse the bearings, put the seal on, and then on the wheel bearing setting, I know there's a spec somewhere. What I do is I will spin it, put the nut on finger tight. I'll take a screwdriver, tap it a couple of keyways past hand tight, spin it, back it off, go hand tight, and then usually I'll try to line it up. And if I have to, I'll always go looser on this, but you don't want much axial play. I think it's 1 to 2 thousandths. This one had enough where I could visually see it. So I'm gonna get this finished up and then we'll start on the engine work. All right, and here we are. Got it all assembled. I do squirt a little bit of gear oil into the bearings after you clean them out. That way they're not dry. And you guys can see here, you just kind of work this nut. Now, I know I didn't film it, but this is about where it was when I took it apart. And you guys can see there, I just worked it back and forth a little bit. And you can get more and more out of it. So I'm pretty sure whoever did this just, might have been in a hurry or made a mistake, or maybe has never done it before. But then you spin the bearing, or hub, excuse me, as you tighten it. I don't know how in the world they expect you to actually tighten and spin this at the same time. I've never quite figured that out, but somewhere somebody has got a book for it. And just keep going. And part of the reason why we're getting so many taps out of this is because we're driving that seal on a little bit, which no big deal. Just keep going. Again, stopping the spin every once in a while here. This is actually pretty easy to spin. Sorry about the lighting, guys. Just trying to show you. Okay, so now it's getting tight to hit by hand, and that's when I take, and it should be like almost really hard to turn this bearing. It's very hard to get it going. Yeah, so that is essentially tight, right? And then all I do is I'm going to take this back to where I can do it by hand. And now you guys see how many threads are showing. So now we're spinning it by hand, and we're gonna go. Wheel bearing feels nice, no up and down play. Whole axle's moving, that's good. And we're gonna just take it all the way to tight, right? There's a lug here, which would be if I could spin it further. There's a lug right there. We're just gonna go backwards to that one, slide our key in and put it together. And that's how you do the real wheel bearings. At least that's how I do them. I do them by feel. I'm sure there's a measurement, but I've just done a lot of them, and this is what's always worked good for me. Then a little bit of RTV, torque all these bolts. I don't remember the torque off my head. I think it's like 80 something foot-pounds, but little bead of silicone, not crazy, just a little bit. You want to focus it more towards the ceiling flange of the hub than getting it inside there. And that's it. And then obviously we lift up, and now we have no more play in that wheel bearing. Hopefully we saved our parking brake shoes. One thing I do when I do rotors is I will adjust these. You want the slightest amount of drag on the parking brake shoes, like almost no drag, but you'll kind of feel it as it slides over. Best thing I can tell you guys is it's kind of a feel thing. If you set it too tight, it will, I guess, essentially wear itself in. If you set it too loose, the parking brake won't work. So there is another adjustment on the parking brake, like up there with the cables, but really you want to make most of your adjustments back here on the shoes, especially to make sure that they're even on contact. You know, when they tell you to do one side, you should probably plan on the other. Got me good on this one. So I'll have to finish that up tomorrow with another wheel seal. This wheel bearing wasn't leaking as bad, but it was definitely moist in there. And then let me get you a shot back here so you can see this amazing diff cover. Just look at that. So pretty. I really like the ATS design. So can't fill that up yet, can't torque the tires until we set the truck back down, but we will keep it pitched up like this. It'll make it easier to work on. And now I'm gonna go ahead and start tearing this all apart. And hopefully now you can understand why this is so important. That stuff is, I'm sure, from the factory fireproof, but once it breaks down, it is no longer. And if you guys look, I still got one more slice to take between the AC lines and what's left, but we got it all removed all the way over. I take it right to the brake master cylinder. So if you look back there, we got it all removed. And then before I open the motor, I will actually shop vac all this out, just so I'm not breathing this crap. But that is step one. And if your hood insulation still hasn't fallen off, that's step one, and then this would be step two. But get rid of that stuff. All it does nowadays is catch trucks on fire. All right, and once you have everything vacuumed and blown off, we will start this assembly. 28 short minutes later, everything's apart, and we are left with our stock head bolts and our factory valve springs. A little trick that I've picked up recently is if you're fighting to get a connecting tube off, take the number 6 line, thread it on, and then you can grab the head with your hand, stick your thumb through the loop, and pop it out. So that is something I'd say in the last couple months I've been doing. Seems to be a lot easier, but there you go. Typical 04.5, 07 EGR cam, excuse me, EGR cam engine oil there. And yeah, now we get the oh so tedious task of doing valve springs. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I hate valve springs. I hate them. I absolutely hate them. If I didn't think we were gonna put compounds on this stock head, I wouldn't have bought them. I hate them. I hate doing them in frame. Out of frame, not bad. In frame, all the little keepers, all the little holes they could fall into, just, man, always makes me nervous. No matter how many times I've done it. I've only dropped a couple, and in which case, you know, after being in these engines so many times, if you drop a keeper, just grab another one. Like, really. I know a lot of guys get like real worked up about it. Like, it can't really go anywhere catastrophic. It's gonna fall down, go on a common rail. It'd actually be really hard for it to get caught up on anything, even on a 24 12 valve. Like, they just kind of fall haplessly into the oil pan. Sometimes I've seen them on 12 valve 24 valves get stuck in the valve and like the behind the tappet cover. On a couple common rails I've seen them stuck, like once you wash the block it'll come out. But I mean, guys, no matter how it falls in to the motor, unless it got stuck under a tappet, which again, when you think about how fast something is spinning, that'd be really hard to believe. It's going to go into the oil pan, the suction tube's going to do its job and stop it, and if not, the oil filter will. So anyway, that's kind of my opinion on it. Right, wrong, and different, whatever the case may be. I don't lose any sweat over lost keepers, or locks, excuse me, in these. Like I said, I think I've lost 2 total, but the amount of cores I've torn down and found them in is quite comical, really, how many get dropped in here. So I'm going to get the valve springs done, and then we'll move on to the head studs, injectors, all that stuff. I have a feeling this video is going to turn into 2 parts. It'll be injectors, valve springs, push rods, and then on another video we'll do the CP3 air dog sump and all that stuff, because this video will get very, very long. So I'm going to get the valve springs done. We'll check back in with you guys once they're done, and we'll move on to the studs. After this crapshoot here, got them all done. I don't know, probably took me 30 minutes, 35 minutes. The only thing I forgot to mention to you guys is I do put paper towels in the push rod holes. And then to spin the motor over, I found this very easy way to do it. Let's see if this thing... So what I do is I take the fan pulley wrench right here. Come on, focus. Right there. And you can actually spin the motor over using the fan pulley wrench, and it spins clockwise. Pretty easy to do. Then you don't gotta screw around with the barring tool down there or having a buddy or nothing. So kind of something that I have adapted to after doing it alone so many times. Works out pretty easy, and haven't had any issues, but there she is. As I sit here and lube these up, again guys, ARP lube on the fine thread, engine oil on the bottom thread, ARP lube on the underside of the nut, washer, count your washers, count your nuts, count your studs. Unless you're a shop like us that keeps more than one of these, you'd hate to do this job and not have all of them. And am I the only one that bought like 1 bottle of ARP fastener lube like 5 years ago and just continues to put all of the blister packs in there? Like any other guys that do this? I swear I think I bought this for my mega cab back in 2014. And I mean, it's not like dried out or gunky, like fresh lube in there. But yeah, I'm gonna get this done. Back for day 2. I'm gonna show you guys how I do these studs. This thing has developed over the years, and as my tool collection has gotten larger. So what I do, all right, 1/2 inch ratchet, flex head, 18 mil shallow, 14 mil, 12 point deep, set to 100 foot-pounds to torque the stud, 5 mil Allen on a 1/4 inch to back the stud off a little bit, 14 mil on an electric ratchet to tighten the stud down, 5 mil on an electric ratchet to tighten the stud into the block, and then the 18 mil to get the factory head bolt out quicker. So like I said, as I've gotten more and more tools, it's gotten faster. So normally factory bolts are torque plus angle. It ends up coming out to approximately, I think it's like 96 or 98 foot-pounds. So a lot of people just do 100. When you do them one by one, obviously you just want to make sure the factory gasket's not blown, and this way is very successful. So we'll start in the back, work our way forward, and then to go to the final torque spec of the 625s, we will follow their pattern. But since you're replacing like for like, it really doesn't matter, and I just like to get the crappy ones out of the way first. We're gonna do this. The only tip I have, make sure you don't have any coolant pressure built up on your radiator cap, just in case it does try to bleed through. Again, kind of one of those things, I've read enough about it where I've started to do that, I'd say in the last 2 years. But I'm gonna get you all set up on the time lapse. Let's get to work. And just like that, our injectors are in. So now we'll drop our push rods in and our rocker arms, bridges, but that's all she wrote. I love it. Can't wait to hear this thing fire up with some fresh fuel. All right, and here we have a set of the PDD Stage 2. So this should be a 7/16 push rod, 138 wall, non-heat treated. Again, private labeled by Manton. We use some brand of Manton push rods, whether it's their own brand or an off brand, in pretty much everything we build, from deck plates to stock engines. As you can tell, these are used, no big deal. We will throw these in here, a little bit of assembly grease, drop them in. If you don't know, there's 2 holes on the bottom of the cowl there. The rubber plugs are actually located right there. Pop those out, fish the push rods in and out, and we'll get to work on that. Valves in, excuse me, rockers in, bridges, push rods. The only thing I will tell you guys, if you go to put a longer push rod in, I don't care, Maxpool, Trend, Manton, Hamilton, any of them, they're always a little longer than factory from what I found. So before you crank these down and end up sending a valve into a piston, what I do is I just tighten them all till they're about like 2 full turns from being fully seated down. I crack all the nuts loose, back them off about 3 or 4 turns on the adjustment screw here, and then I will go through and set the lash. Stock cam, you just TDC number 1 compression, you do half, TDC number 6 compression, do the other half and move on. No tricks, tips there other than just pay attention to the longer push rods there. And then from here, we are going to end this video, and then I'll pick up on another episode of us doing like the CP3 and a bunch of other stuff. So I just don't want this video to be 50 minutes long. Do you guys think I'd leave you hanging? No, we put it back together. I'm not gonna be able to get some of this stuff done before Christmas, so I just kind of haphazardly tossed it back together. Let's get you a first fire. Well, that's what happens when you leave a little too much brake cleaner in the motor area, but no big deal. Got her all fired up, and then that ticking noise is going to be our leaking power steering pump. So it's actually the Hydro Boost that seems to be the problem. So, or not the Hydro Boost, excuse me. It seems to be the gearbox is leaking, so that will be a future video. But I'm going to get this topped off, and I think we'll call it a weekend, guys. And now you guys can hear that that noise is gone after I added a little bit of power steering fluid to it. And sounds pretty smooth. I mean, kind of clattery, but when you have those bigger injectors in, they're gonna idle a little louder, but you guys can see there, this is, again, a untuned truck. So it's still got the stock tuning in it. And just like I showed you in that tech video, as long as the idles are close to stock, you could start this thing. You could even drive it 45% over. Hold on here. 45% over is probably a little bit big to like just hop in and go down the road. Really 30% over is as big as you should probably go without doing some kind of tuning for a long-term situation. And again, with the stock CP3 pump, it just won't keep up. You'll end up getting a bunch of check engine lights for low rail pressure, stuff like that. But fired it up. Again, we will get to the CP3 and the Air Dog. Right now, I really just wanted to focus on getting all the engine stuff done. Like, there's not even a gasket in between here right now because I know it's coming right back apart. The other thing I want to do is get our wire tuck. I don't know, it's kind of insulting to like Brian Durf Battleship 6.7. But basically all I do is I take this harness here and I tuck it into the inner cowl. That way it's not there hanging down. It's not so saggy. We'll probably relume a couple things, but that'll be in upcoming episodes. We got it running. Again, we got all of our wheel seals fixed. Our parking brakes are actually adjusted correctly now. We got our ATS diff cover. So hopefully you guys like this one. Hopefully you guys have a great Christmas with your family. From my family to yours, Merry Christmas. Hopefully you spend it with loved ones and enjoy your time. Once we get back from vacation, we'll go ahead and start getting back into this. Again, we'll get it. It's just chipping away. Realistically, it looks like the first event we might even need this is in February. So we do have quite a bit of time. However, it will sneak up on us if we don't stay at it. So like this one, drop a comment down below. Subscribe if you are not already. And as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.